Hello, everybody, and happy Friday. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. It's all brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Schmeelk and Paul Dottino, we are done with our team previews. We are back. The phone systems are back up, mostly because we got Pearson out of here and Dom is at the controls today with Caroline assisting. Right here in the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. So we're back taking your calls. So get on the line, folks, whether you're listening on Giants.com, the Giants app, watching on YouTube. We'll take your calls at 201-939-4513. Talk Giants football with you. Paul, the rookies have been here for a few days now.
Yeah.
By the way, I hope you guys did enjoy our opponent previews. I think it gives you an idea of what's in store for the Giants this year. But now the rookies have been here about 4 days. They're not really doing anything. Nothing.
Not much, no.
But they're here. And we always joke when this time off starts at the end of June. You're like, I can't wait for football to get here. I'm so excited. I'm like, Paul, I need some time off. Well, I've gotten to the point now. I'm ready for it to start again.
Good for you.
I'm there. I'm ready to go.
This is the final day of the black hole.
No, Monday is.
Well, I guess you're right, because they report Tuesday,
yes.
technically.
Monday
Yes.
is technically.
Yeah. 22nd, right? Okay. So I'm just glad I got through another Bermuda Triangle, another black hole, another Darth in the universe to get to another football season. Because when this all begins now, when these veterans get here onto the property, we're going to be all football all the way until February.
Yeah.
And
it's true.
That's the best part of the calendar year.
It is. I'm excited. The problem is that I'm going to get all pumped up for that first day of practice and I realize I have 4 practices to go until pads come on and I'm going to get disappointed again. Happens every year. It's going to happen again.
I know.
But it is what it is. So that, as Paul mentioned, players report on Tuesday. They have whatever remains of a conditioning test on Tuesday. It's not really what it used to be.
No, it's not.
When Tom Coughlin had him up in Albany sweating and, really hard time in a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then practice starts on Wednesday and we're rocking and rolling. So I thought, here's what we would do today, everybody. We're not going to do camp preview stuff. We've kind of done all of that over the course of the last month. So we want to take a lot of your calls. You're going to get 201-939-4513 and want to go through over the past 3 weeks. Jeremy Fowler, one of the great insiders over at ESPN, has done his yearly poll of NFL personnel. I think it's mostly general manager, scouts. There might be some coaches in there too. I have to look at the exact methodology. But it's a poll of people from the National Football League. And he does votes. And he basically gets the 10 best players at each position in the National Football League. And it's based on a voting system, who these guys vote for. He tallies them, he aggregates them, and then he comes up with this list. So I figure it'd be a good day to talk about that, go through some of those lists, see mostly where the Giant players are, but we also, I think, have some interesting things we want to discuss on each of these lists as well. So, Paul, why don't we start with where the Giants appear on these lists?
Okay.
And then we'll go from there. It should be no surprise to anyone that the highest rated player on his list, that was an autoplay on my computer, sorry, is Dexter Lawrence. You can blame ESPN for that, not me. Dexter Lawrence, who is number 1 among defensive tackles.
Yes.
In what, Paul, when we went through this, is a very, very, very strong group. The NFL has really turned into a league where they value the position. These guys are getting paid.
Correct.
Right below, edge players and kind of even with offensive tackles almost now in terms of the amount of money they're making. And Dexter Lawrence comes in at number 1 on this list. Just to give you an idea, after that it's Chris Jones, Jalen Carter, Jeffrey Simmons, Quinnen Williams, Leonard Williams at number 6, former Giant. He's still only 31 years old. It feels like he's been in the league forever.
I know.
Nandi Madubuike, DeForest Buckner, Vita Vea, and then coming in at number 10 is Cameron Hayward. And look, in just 12 games last year, Dexter Lawrence had 9 sacks, and the point they make in the description is that he's really taken off as a pass rusher, despite taking constant double teams, often lining up as a nose tackle as a pass rusher, which is something that's very difficult to do. So tip your cap. Dexter Lawrence, number one amongst defensive tackles.
You know, John, when we went over it quickly this morning just to take a look at some of the names, the first thing I said when we got to the defensive tackle spot was not only is it deep, but that's the impact that Aaron Donald had on the position. He truly started to put the microscope on the defensive tackle spot. Because, as an NFL Defensive Player of the Year, I think he might have even won it twice. Or maybe even 3 times. I'm not even sure now. Everybody always thought about the pass rushers or the shutdown corners. But then Aaron Donald came along, and he became a freak of nature who could literally turn a game from the interior of the line. And since that point, teams have absolutely, positively put a greater emphasis on the interior of the defensive line.
And look, I think it shows why you also lock these guys up on contracts early, which the Giants did with Dexter Lawrence. They still have him under team control. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Will they eventually renegotiate that to extend him and give him more? Who knows? But he's a really good player. He's one of the most disruptive defensive players in the league. One of the anonymous quotes they had from one of the voters was that if he didn't get hurt and the Giants were better, he would have been in Defensive Player of the Year conversation, which I think would have been fair. Mm-hmm. And as both two people that sit down and rewatch the game every Monday morning when we come back in and we get back and we kind of get a fresh look at everything, his level of dominance despite double teams on nearly every play in the middle of that defensive line is really something to behold when you rewatch it on the end zone coach's tape the next day.
Yeah, it's funny because when Dexter Lawrence came into the league, a lot of folks actually thought that he might even be better as just an oversized defensive end. There was some thought about that, John.
But I know there were also some complaints of Giant fans. They saw him like, all right, you're going to draft a 350-pound run stuffer in the middle of the first round. Where's the value there?
Yeah.
But to your point, he always had the athleticism.
Yes. And that's why once they were able to convert him inside and he proved that he could still make the kind of maneuvers that he was making all along when he was in college, now all of a sudden it became like, oh, wow, this guy's unique. He's a unicorn. With that frame, that body, he can do this? Wow.
Yeah, pretty much. And again, he's coming off that elbow injury. We haven't seen him do a ton in the spring. He did individual stuff, but not much more than that. So something to keep an eye on as we head into training camp here. All right. The next highest rated Giants player, believe it or not, Malik Nabers came in at number 7 on the wide receiver list. The only 6 players ahead of him are names that you should be fairly familiar with. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill at number 3, which I thought that's a little high given he's 31 and the last couple of years haven't been as good. CeeDee Lamb at number 4, A.J. Brown at number 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 6, and then Malik Nabers comes in at number 7 just ahead of Nico Collins, Mike Evans, and Garrett Wilson. So I think it just shows you how impressed the NFL was with Malik Nabers, despite the fact he missed a couple games with that concussion last year. Mm-hmm. And he had some concentration drops in big spots and then some games.
Sure did.
But the overall package, athleticism, explosiveness really made an impression on people around the National Football League.
Well, I think the other item, if you wanted to throw a chink in his armor, his average yards per catch. For a guy who's supposed to be so dynamic, John, you want to see him up in that 14, 15 or higher range per catch. For him to average what he averaged, that's not enough. But what this tells you is that the NFL talent evaluators, again, the scouts, the GMs, the coaches, whoever it was that they finally got the ballots from, because these had to be anonymous, otherwise they would not get an honest evaluation.
Correct.
Whoever voted for him is telling you, we're not holding that stuff against him. We see the talent, we see the ability, we see the explosiveness, we see the toolbox. Forget about his average yards per catch. Forget about, he didn't have as many missed tackles or forced missed tackles as you'd want him to have or you think he should have. We think there were a lot of reasons why maybe he wasn't totally A+ across the board. And consequently, he's in the top 10.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get him into 14 or 15, Paul, just because high-volume receivers.
Usually they don't.
Justin Jefferson is an exception. He was at 14.9 last year. He was basically first among high-volume receivers. Mm-hmm. That's basically guys of, I can classify it as 70 catches or more. Brian Thomas, who was a big-time deep threat, he came in at 14.7. Zay Flowers, 14.3. Kittle, 14.2. So if we can get to that 13.5 to 14 area, I think that's probably a good place to kind of aim for.
Well, think of this, right? Darius Slayton, is a 15-yard per catch guy for his career. Now, he doesn't catch 80 balls a year.
Well, he's not a volume guy. Exactly my point, right?
Right. He's not a volume guy. But I think when we look at those two players...
Neighbors, by the way, just for reference, was at 11.0 last year, which is lower than Theo Johnson. I mean, you can't have that. Right.
If he is your headache player, that needs to be better.
Well, that has to do with what was going on at the quarterback position last year.
A lot of stuff.
Yes.
No doubt. No doubt. And I think that's what the evaluators recognized, is that number is not on Neighbors. They're expecting his number to balloon once he gets Russell Wilson throwing passes to him. But I do think it's interesting, right? Because you mentioned about the high volume having an impact on the average per catch. We would all agree, 100 out of 100 would agree, Neighbors is much more explosive than Darius Slayton. No disrespect to Darius Slayton.
Right.
But when you talk about a game-breaking receiver, Neighbors is going to be the guy who fits the bill more than Slayton does.
Yeah, but to your point, Slayton is not a guy that they're going to throw the ball to the line of scrimmage and tell him, go make guys miss. And that's going to drag your yards per catch down, obviously.
Yes, it does.
All right, let's go to the next highest. This is the only other Giant player that was ranked, I should say. So he's obviously the next highest. He's the only other ranked guy. And that was Andrew Thomas, who checked in at offensive tackle at number 10 on this list. You wonder, if not for the injuries, if he might have been higher. These are the offensive tackles, ranked ahead of him. For those of you that have not seen the list, Tristan Wirfs, number 1. Penei Sewell, number 2. Lane Johnson, number 3. Number 4 was Trent Williams, still on the list, despite the fact that I believe he turns 37 today or tomorrow.
I know.
Jordan Mailata, number 5. Rashawn Slater, number 6. These are all names that people should not be surprised by. Laramie Tunsil, just acquired by the Commanders, number 7. Deion Dawkins from the Bills, number 8. Christian Darrisaw from the Vikings, number 9. Then Andrew Thomas checks in at number 10. With a bunch of honorable mentions, Jake Matthews, Joe Alt, Ronnie Stanley, Colton Miller, Taylor Decker, Bernard Raymond. So,
yeah, I thought that Darrisaw probably was a little higher than Thomas, and that made me kind of cringe a little bit. I think I like Thomas as a better player, but again, he's not always on the field. And I thought Dawkins, too, from Buffalo. Look, when you talk to the people from the Bills, they'll tell you that there have been a lot of inconsistencies there, that they don't think he's reached his full potential, and they're a little bit disappointed. So I could have seen Thomas ahead of both of those guys, but the injury factor has to be considered, right? Durability is part of the equation.
It is. And look, if they also list like highest ranking, lowest ranking, somebody ranked him number 1 on this list.
Thomas?
Yeah. He had highest ranking was 1. That means one of the voters thought he was the best offensive tackle in football when he was healthy.
I think when he's healthy, he's certainly in the top 6.
I think
maybe 5.
I think that's probably true. I agree with you. Last year he was ranked 8th, just for the record. But again, dealing with injuries every year, so
I know
that has to be taken into consideration. There were 2 other honorable mentions for the Giants on these lists. Brian Burns was the first honorable mention at the edge spot. I think he put him in the order of number of votes that they got based on, they weren't alphabetical, so I'm assuming that's how he did it. So he was first one up on the edge group. And it's hard to really argue with any of the guys ahead of him. I know you maybe have one small beef with the guy that got ranked number 10, but overall, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, Trey Hendrickson, Aiden Hutchinson, Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, and then Jared Verse coming in at number 10, who had a fantastic year last year.
He did. I'm a little partial to Burns, and I felt that way when he was in Carolina before he even came to the Giants. I was always very impressed with him. And, when he came out of Florida State, I was a little curious. Is he going to be a little bit lax against the run? That's not happened. Since he got to the NFL, I think he's even become better run against the run than he did when he was in college. And so I have great regard for Brian Burns, and I probably would have put him ahead of Verse, but I understand. I will say this, John.
And based on the way they wrote Verse up, it was a tiebreaker situation.
Oh, yeah?
And what he said, he asked league executives to break the tie, and they leaned towards Verse, apparently.
Okay.
And this is the quote on Burns. He's a little quote on there. This is from an NFL personnel evaluator. He's still got premier ability, someone you have to account for on every snap. If this was a skill set conversation only, he'd be top 5. He's got everything you want from that standpoint, but he just hasn't had the consistent production.
Well, I would probably answer that quote with the fact that last year he was badly beaten up, John.
I know, but that's the point. He's only had one double-digit sack year.
Yes.
So I get why you would say the consistent production would be what was holding him back.
Now, remember, when he came to the Giants in that deal and they got the extension worked out before the trade with the Panthers, we discussed the fact that in reality, he was the only headache player that the Panthers had in their pass rush. So it was a lot easier for teams to really beat up on him, too.
Yeah, and they were always playing from behind because they were a bad team.
That also.
So
his numbers were going to be skewed.
Yep.
I will tell you this. I liked him a lot when they got him. I like him even more now that I saw him every week.
No, I'm with you on that. And I was always a big Brian Burns fan. Yeah. So, all right. Only other honorable mention was Javon Holland. I think he was the first runner-up at safety.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other Giants were on that safety list. Xavier McKinney, coming off a monster year, came in at number 3, and Julian Love came in at number 10 on that list.
Yeah, it's funny because we talk about Holland coming here, and I guess he had that one huge interception return for a touchdown, but other than that, he hasn't gotten a lot of turnovers.
Correct.
Yet his reputation out of Miami was that he was the top safety in free agency this year, and that he does tend to make clutch plays.
And he was very good in college at getting the football,
no question.
Too,
no question. So my intrigue with Holland is he going to make more impact in the turnover category? I have no doubt about his ability to be smart in coverage, to be a kind of guy who's going to be a great teammate, to help work with some of the young players. And I have absolutely no problem with him as a tackler. But I would like to know if he's going to make more of an impact in the turnover category.
No, I think that's fair. All right, we have a couple other guys on this list we want to get through that we maybe thought were interesting to discuss, but we have people on the line, and we haven't taken calls in like 3 weeks. So I want to get to the calls. 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K racing kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October 26th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative t-shirt, and after the race, stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Paul, I was considering, would you be willing to put yourself up as a speed walker in that and see how many people can beat you to the finish line and have some type of contest?
I had no problem doing that several years ago, but they always hold it on a day when we're on the road.
Well, they have to, I think.
Right.
Because they have to get the stadium ready.
Exactly. So I forget where we are that weekend, but we're not going to be here.
We got the schedule right here. That is 26th. We will be at Philadelphia. So, yeah, that's not going to work.
No.
All right. Well, it was a good idea.
Sorry.
Oh, well, it happens. All right, 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Dom and Caroline on the controls. Let's go to, who better to lead us back than Charlie in Portland, Maine. Hi, Charlie. How are you? Long time no speak, buddy.
Hey, John. How you doing?
We're good.
Paul.
What's going on?
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you.
Hey, the weekend before the iceberg. So we start off next week, right? Hey, look, I'm looking at this as we got a lot of key players with key injuries, right? I mean, a lot of guys didn't do anything in the OTAs, and you don't really do anything in the OTAs except stand around and move a little bit, and they couldn't even do that.
Well, no, Charlie, hold on. The only guy that didn't do anything in OTAs was Andrew Thomas.
Well, that's the guy I'm going to talk about first.
And that's fine. Because honestly, he's the only guy with an injury that I would have a high level of concern for in terms of when he's going to be ready. Everyone else, I feel pretty good about being ready to go, if not day one of camp, pretty early in camp. Paul, you agree with that?
Yeah, I would add, though, that Thomas has been around a lot in the offseason doing the workouts in the weight room and stuff.
Right.
So it's not like he's getting soft.
No, he's not getting soft, but I had him on the John Soto podcast, and he said that, look, I'm not putting a timetable on it. So
that
just something to keep in mind.
That I agree with.
Yes. Go ahead, Charlie.
But he's certainly not becoming the marshmallow man, while he's sidelined.
By the way, he had a very good first pitch. Did you see the pitch he threw?
I did not.
At Yankee Stadium?
I heard about it.
It was a very good pitch.
I heard.
It was very impressive. Anyway, go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I can't understand why nobody can throw a pitch 60 feet away. And they all look so bad doing it, and they're all athletes usually. But anyway, that's another subject. But what Thomas said in your interview was stunning. It was like, I had major surgery, and we're hoping we're hoping that we're going to make the first game, but we're taking it really slow and cautiously, and I am not really sure I will even be there at the first game or the second game. That's what I got out of it.
He said the plan is to be ready for game number 1, but he did not want to put a firm timetable.
Right.
That's what he
wasn't very confident.
Specific.
Most of these players, they'll say, "Oh, of course, yeah, I'll be ready for the first game. Of course I will."
No, Charlie, that's why I said if there's one player to really keep an eye on over the course of camp with the injury recovery, it's Andrew Thomas. No argument. That's fair.
Yeah. What's that going to do to this great offensive line that we brought everybody back? We brought in this guy, the Hudson River guy, who has not lived up to his capabilities. He hasn't been able to win a starting position. He supposedly has all the tools, but he's been totally inconsistent, and we're relying on him to take Andrew Thomas's place.
Charlie, I hate to do this, but I'm going to partially agree with you, okay? But for a different reason. But it's going to be a different reason. And John knows exactly where I'm going to go with this.
I don't know if I do, actually.
Oh, sure you do.
What's that?
This offensive line, as they try to figure out who the best 5 are, they need to play snaps in the preseason.
Oh.
And if Andrew Thomas cannot play any preseason snaps, that does hurt the ability to gel and to form the chemistry that those guys are going to need week 1 against Washington.
Now, I will say this. I feel like Runyon and Andrew Thomas should have pretty good chemistry based off what they did the first 6 or 7 games of last year.
I hope so, but it's not like they even played a full season.
And you can plug the other guys in at the same spots they were in together last year. So this group should have chemistry. They played together last year. They all know each other. There's no new people in there. The only guy that'll have to get chemistry is Hudson, and he'll get chances at left tackle while Thomas is out. So I agree. I'm with you. But there should be a large... When's the last time the Giants brought back the same 5 guys to start 1 year to the next? I feel like it's been a long time since they've done that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I think that at least gives this group a little bit of an advantage and makes that chemistry thing a little less of a worry, at least for me.
Which, by the way, Charlie, and I think you're going to be on board with this because you do agree with the preseason snap philosophy. I think if the Giants are serious about Evan Neal really getting a shot to win one of those guard spots.
And by the way, he would not be over John Runyon Jr. It would be
he would be over. Yes, he'd be at right guard. But if they're serious about that, Evan Neal better get a lot of preseason snaps.
And I'm sure he will.
I hope so.
Yeah, but hasn't he coming off injury too?
Yeah, he finished last year with a shoulder injury. I believe he had shoulder surgery, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly. Yeah. He started doing everything the last couple weeks of spring practice, so he should be fine.
Yeah, I'm not getting a vibe that he's going to be out.
Nah, he should be okay.
All right.
Did you call him Bunyan?
The thing is, do you really think that if Thomas is not going to play the first couple of games, say, that they're really going to put Hudson in there and they're not going to move Illuminor over to the left and put Hudson on the right side?
I think if they believe Andrew Thomas will be back in short order, they're not going to want to mess with the rest of the line in Illuminor because right now, Charlie, at this point in the NFL, left tackle and right tackle, there's not that much difference anymore in terms of importance. I know they're not paid that way. Left tackles still get paid a little bit more. I understand that. But guess what? When you face the Cowboys in week 2, the right tackle is going to see Micah Parsons more than the left tackle is.
He is.
So I don't think you put Illuminor at a weaker position, hurting the line in 2 spots just to have Illuminor play left tackle. So I think, and again, I think a good judge of this, Charlie, and I think you bring up a good point, when we get to if you get to the 3rd or 4th week of August and Thomas is not back yet, how often do we see Illuminor left tackle? If we don't see Illuminor left tackle at all, I think that's the signal. All right, he's the right tackle. Hudson's the backup left tackle. Done, finished, finito. That'll be something to keep an eye on depending on when Andrew Thomas gets back on the field.
Charlie, one other comment about Hudson. And we said this on the show the other day. And look, I haven't watched this guy on a regular basis. I mean, I don't cover the Browns, okay? But it's unfair to disparage him as the third tackle or the swing tackle until you see what he's got to offer. They went after him very quickly in free agency, John. They made him a priority.
Though I think the one thing you can't say,
because they couldn't get Fry, that's why.
You always wonder why a team lets a player go.
Understood.
When they drafted him, they developed him, and then they decided not to bring him back. And look, a backup left tackle for the 49ers got signed for like $15 million a year by the Chiefs. So it's not like there isn't always a high demand for offensive tackles. So
I do understand that.
I have optimism. Joe Shane likes the player, so I'll believe in their evaluation. But to me, it's a see to believe type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. All right. Hey, the only other guy I was going to talk about is just quick is Neighbors and his turf toe. That's an issue. It's chronic. It's probably not going to get better until he has surgery at some point in time. So I would keep an eye on him.
Charlie, I appreciate the call. Thank you. I don't think, based on what I've heard people say, that that's something that can be solved surgically. I think they would have if it could be.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that just requires rest. And I think that's the reason they didn't have him do anything full speed and competitive in the spring, to get the rest. And I think the hope is with rest, that helps mitigate the issue. Because remember, we didn't hear about the toe last year during the regular season at all.
I concur with John on this, because if you go by logic, right?
Now, I'm not a doctor, by the way, so I could be wrong. Maybe there is a surgical solution, but I have not heard anyone say that, well, we had a choice. We could have done surgery or we could have rested it. I did not hear that as something that was even discussed in the spring.
Neither one of us have taken 1 minute of medical class.
No.
Okay? But just use logic here. We were told after the season that it did occur at some point over the course of the second half of the year. It did happen. He played through it. We know he missed some snaps in the final month of the season too, because he was so pained by the whole thing.
He was never on the injury report though with the toe.
But he never showed up on the injury report. He fought through it, which big thumbs up to the kid, right, for fighting through. But here's the thing. They knew he was hurt for several weeks by the time the season ended. So I'm with John. If you think you can get that thing fixed, well then as soon as the season's over, you're telling him, you're not going to the Pro Bowl competition. You're getting the thing taken care of, so we have you for next year.
Correct.
But they didn't do that because they obviously felt that surgery was not an option.
And he did stuff at the Pro Bowl.
He did.
He played in the flag football game.
He did. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't sense that there was a nasty level of concern there.
Yes, I'm with you on that. By the way, we also will take your comments on the YouTube channel. That's something that we haven't really done much of because we just started streaming on YouTube. And feel free to drop your comments in there, whether it's Dom today, but whether it's Pearson, Johnny Mac, whatever. They'll keep an eye on that. So I'm going to go to Jace's question from YouTube. Do you know if or when do you see Jackson Dart taking over the offense this season? And this is going to be our, I think, patented response over the next few months. There's no way for us to know. It all depends how the season goes. It all depends how Russell Wilson plays. It all depends how ready Jackson Dart appears. These are all things that will influence that decision that we just don't have the answer to right now. I will say this. I would be very surprised if it's in the first 2 months of the year.
I concur.
Beyond that, I'm shrugging my shoulders. I have no idea. Don't know. No idea. It all depends how the season goes, how Russell Wilson's playing, and what Dart looks like in the meetings and in whatever practice time he gets with the scout team. And that's the best I could do for you.
The only thing that I would add is that of the various factors, and John already outlined a few of them, the one concrete factor that is number one on the list and everything else falls after that is this coaching staff must believe that Jackson Dart is capable of reasonably competing in a game where he's not getting in. We're going to have an interview with Warren Sharp coming up on the Giants Huddle podcast. I think in 2 weeks from today, actually, it's on the schedule for. And, he's great with his numbers, right? So Number fiend.
He brought out a great number. Of the Giants' first 8 weeks, was it 7 of their opponents in those first 8, or 6 of the opponents in the first 8 weeks, finished in the top 7 in pass defense last year.
Oh, boy.
The only 2 teams that didn't, I believe, were Washington and New Orleans. Every other team was in the top 7. 7.
Run the ball, John.
In pass defense last year.
Run the ball.
So I think,
be balanced.
And again, this is my PSA, and I know fans don't want to hear it. Len, I'm sure, is stewing at home right now hearing me say this, and I'm sorry, Len. But you might have to be a little patient with the pass offense earlier in the year, simply based on who the opponents are going to be.
The one good thing, though, John, is that the guy they brought in to start, Russell Wilson has seen it all. And he's smart, and he's not reckless with the ball. And yeah, we know he'll take sacks instead of throwing interceptions. We get that. Eli Manning did that during a number of his seasons as well. The good news is that Russell Wilson is not going to be flummoxed, shocked, surprised, or thrown off his game by these incredibly talented secondaries.
No, and I will get that exact number for you. But first, let's go to Lou in Pennsylvania. He's up next. Hey, Lou.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We're good.
Back.
What do you got?
Just quick. So, a lot of talk is around Andrew Thomas on the O-line. I know the draft is next year, but what do you think about probably looking to draft a high in the second round maybe? Don't go low, a left tackle, because 3 of the 5 years he's not been around. He's coming off an injury. We have no idea how he's what's gonna happen or when he's gonna be at 100%. Runyon, we don't know if he's gonna move over to left tackle. Would you draft a left tackle now? Because I don't think we really need something to draft. This is one of the few years where, yeah, we need a corner later on, but would you draft the left tackle in the upcoming draft? Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate the call. Thank you, Lou. Good stuff. Well, I think at first it depends what Andrew Thomas does this year and how healthy he is. I think that's the first question.
Without a doubt.
The other part of the question, which, we're trying to focus on this year and not look ahead, but we can have some fun talking long term here. Jermaine Illuminor is a free agent after the year, folks. So is Greg Van Roten. So is Evan Neal.
Mm-hmm.
So you got 3 of your top 6 offensive linemen, in theory. If you want to put Neal as number 6 in that group, you can. I don't know how the Giants have it rated, whatever. So you're going to have to make some type of decision on your other offensive tackle spot at the end of the year. Andrew Thomas is locked up long-term contractually. He's not going anywhere. He's on the roster next year. He's under contract through 2029. All right?
Yep.
And if you look at, what are you on, over the cap?
I'm on Spot Rack right now.
Spot Rack. Same difference. There's no way to get out of this thing until after the 2026 season at the earliest, and it's still painful at that point. So, Andrew Thomas is a really good player. I just mentioned it. He was ranked number 1 by one of the voters in Jeremy Fowler's poll. He was number 10 overall, despite the injuries. He's not going anywhere. But does that not mean you want to draft somebody next year that maybe has the ability to play left tackle and right tackle? So maybe if you don't sign Jermaine Illuminor back, which, by the way, I want Illuminor back. I think he's great.
So do I.
I think he's a really solid player. You can play inside, outside, gives you a lot of position flexibility. I want him back. Do you draft a tackle that maybe can be your long-term swing, depending on how, and maybe James Hudson plays great this year, and you feel good about him being your left tackle if Thomas is hurt. That's another thing that plays into it. So
don't know. I
hate to give you the equivocating answer here, Lou. I think we have to see how the season goes before we have that conversation. But the Giants have gone a couple years now without drafting an offensive lineman with a premium pick in the draft. In fact,
well, JMS was a number 2.
That was 3 drafts ago now.
Yeah.
That's 3 drafts ago.
Yeah.
Last 2 drafts.
Yeah. Okay.
They haven't drafted an offensive lineman. Right?
Well, Bo was late.
Who?
Bo. Marcus Bo.
Oh, Marcus Bo. That's right.
He was late.
I forgot about Marcus Bo. Sorry. So that was a day 3 guy.
But by the way, actually, he could be a dark horse at one point.
No.
Down the road.
Paul, you're right. And for some reason, this happens when you're off for a couple weeks, folks. Things start flying out of your brain. No, you're 1,000% right. He's a long-term tackle, in their opinion.
Yeah.
And he's got the feet to play the position. We've talked about this. He's a guy, I think, you see if he's ready to play tackle next year. And then that also then impacts your decision. Do you draft another guy at tackle? Great point on Marcus Bo. For some reason, that just didn't click for me.
But you know what? Right now, as it stands, he's going to be deep in the depth chart because they're trying to win as many games as they can, certainly at the beginning of the season. I don't know what Bo's snap count's going to be by the end of the year. It may turn out that the Giants are competitive throughout the entire part of their schedule, and they're trying to win games, and Marcus Bo doesn't even get in. That's possible, which then means, it's a redshirt year for him, and now you're going to have to go off of offensive line coach Carmen Brasillo's evaluation to get a feel as to where he is after being in the building for a season, because you may not have any tape on him, John.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a guy that they want to play this year, to your point.
I don't think so. I mean, I think all things going well, he doesn't play. I mean, honestly, I just don't see the room for him if they're going to be competitive. Now, if things fall apart and the last month or so of the season, the ship has taken on a lot of water and they have to start playing guys to find out, okay, well, we got to force feed them in there and see what we've got. Well, that's a more likely scenario for him to get a jersey on Sunday. Otherwise, I think he's very likely not to play.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I agree. So that's something they're going to have to decide. Again, he certainly has the athletic ability for it. He's been playing at tackle. That they think he's a tackle. That's where they're starting him out at. Mm-hmm. That's what he played at Purdue. So that's another guy that, yeah. But again, I think Jermaine Illuminor is a great guy to keep around here. All right, here we go. So this is the stat. In the first 8 weeks of 2025, the New York Giants will face 5 top 7 pass defenses from last year. The Broncos, they were number 1 last year. They play them in week 7. They play the Eagles twice, so that's why it's 6 games. In weeks 6 and 8, the Eagles were the number 2 ranked pass defense last year. Mm-hmm. They play the Chargers in week 4. They were the number 3 ranked pass defense last year. Mm-hmm. The Commanders were number 6 pass defense last year. They play them in week 1. So it was the Saints and the Cowboys that were out of the mix there. Okay. That's my fault.
Okay.
And then the Chiefs were number 7 in pass defense last year. They play them in week 3. By the way, I'm not buying that Commanders ranking. So I'll say 5 of the first 8 weeks, but still, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did Washington get so high there?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. This was based on yardage?
Pass
defense based
I think it's one of his efficiency rankings.
Okay.
I don't think he has it here.
Okay. Well, nonetheless, the point is still to be made. This is definitely a tailor-made situation for Russell Wilson to be able to use his craftiness to have to navigate what could be some rough waters.
And just overall for the season, Warren Sharp, again, I don't want to completely blow up the interview and give all the interesting facts on it, but I'll give this one. Just because we've kind of talked about this throughout the offseason with how tough the schedule is. But the Giants this year, in terms of their opponents, I'm looking forward here. Where is it? Here we go. They play the second toughest pass defense schedule in the entire National Football League this year.
Well, that kind of jives with the fact that they have 10 games against teams that made the playoffs last year, and that is tied for third most. There are 2 teams that have 11, and then there's a bunch of teams that have 10. So that just goes right along with the rest of the deal. It's going to be a tough schedule.
It is. Just to give you a couple more of those metrics, it's second in defensive efficiency overall, looks like, and it's third in pass defense efficiency. So very, 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 very tough in terms of the passing game for the Giants this year, in terms of the defenses. So,
well, all the more reason why you desperately want Jalen Hyatt to bust out and add to this passing attack, because if you've got really good pass defenses to play every single week, you need somebody to help loosen guys up. You don't want them beating the stuffing out of Neighbors. You don't want them all over Theo Johnson, who you hope is going to be a good guy down the seam. You need to get that secondary spread out. Hyatt can help do that if he's going to really turn the switch on.
Coach Marvin, we'll get to you in a second, but first I want to go to Edward from our YouTube feed. Do you think McFadden will be extended? I think he is a huge part of our defense. That's one of the interesting extension guys, Paul, coming up next year.
It is.
That the Giants have to make a call on. So I know they like him as a player. I think he's a good player. I think that comes down to price point. Can you get him at a price point that you think makes sense for him and for the team?
I totally agree with that, John. And part of his, believe it or not, for me, there's a little bit of an attachment here, because I think this year he's actually going to have to fight for snaps with Abdul Carter some, because Carter's going to play some with Burns and Thibodeau. You're not taking Okereke off the field. So McFadden's going to be the guy who's probably going to lose some of those snaps when the 3 pass rushers are on the field.
Which is a shame, because McFadden is actually a pretty good blitzer.
Yes, it is. And he's had back-to-back 100-tackle seasons. But it's Abdul Carter. I mean...
No, he's got to be on the field.
He's got to be on the field.
100%.
So McFadden's probably going to lose some of those snaps. Now, depending upon down the road, what do you do with Thibodeau? Remember, they got his 5th-year option for 2026. But beyond that, you don't know. Well, does Carter eventually wind up moving out and becoming a full-time outside guy? Well, if you're going to do that, you can now sign McFadden to a longer-term extension. But if you're not going to do that and you still want to put Carter all over the place and you want to retain Thibodeau, then I don't think you invest money in McFadden.
No, you're right. I think it's an interesting conversation. Paul on YouTube wants to know, how do you see Chauncey Golston being mixed into the trio of Burns, Thibodeau, and Carter? It's a good question. I still see him as more of an early down edge and then a pass rushing 3 technique. That's how I think he gets mixed in. I think he's probably a 50% snap count type of player when you take a look at how this is going to play out. And you can also play him at defensive end in a 4-man line. You can play him at 5 technique, defensive end in a 3-man, in an odd man front, right? With 3 down linemen, 2 outside linebackers, 5-man front. So that's the good thing about Golston, Paul. He's so big and athletic. He can do a lot of different things. So I think that's where you're going to see him most.
Yeah, I think that the fact that he not only plays the run well, but he's really good at knocking passes down at the line. He's made a habit of doing that with Dallas and did have 5.5 sacks last year.
He also did that in spring practice a lot, too.
He did.
Knocking all the passes down the line.
I mean, again, I don't want to invoke this name because it's going to drive people crazy, but the style of player, he's going to have a lot of that Justin Tuck style in him and usage in him. I'm not calling him Justin Tuck. Please don't say that.
I mean, Tuck played defensive tackle on early downs. I'm not sure we're going to see much of that from Golston.
No, I don't think so either, but you'll see some of the similarities and how he's used in the scheme.
I'll buy that. All right, let's go to Coach Marvin in Delaware. And keep getting those comments in on YouTube, by the way. We will get to them. Coach, what's going on?
How you doing, John and Paul?
We're good.
Hi.
Yeah, hope you guys enjoy your vacation.
I did. I don't think Paul did, but I did.
Yeah,
Coach,
we missed
Coach.
you. I missed the show, though.
Oh, thank you, Coach.
Oh, man, I live and breathe it. You know what it is.
Yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys in another, not this weekend, next weekend. I'll be there next weekend.
Oh, nice.
Excellent.
Yeah, let us
that
know.
Sunday.
Great.
If y'all are there.
Yes, we'll be
So
there.
I'll be there then. So I'll try to hunt you down a little bit.
I'll be in the cot underneath the bleachers.
No, you're going to be marching up and down the sideline, glowing like the golden sun is what you're going to be doing.
Oh, my. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, hopefully I get to see you or meet you guys.
For sure.
I'm listening about the offensive line and a little bit what's going on. I didn't know if you guys heard Pat Kerwin. I'm a big fan of Pat Kerwin.
He's great.
And they was grading all the offensive lines in the league, and they got to the NFC East. And I don't know if y'all heard that grade, the grading he was given NFC East. He gave the Eagles. I think the highest number offensive linemen can get is a 5. And then he also put in how many points the individuals on the bench, the experience they have, and things like that. How many games they played, all that runs into his points grade. And he gave the Eagles a 18. I believe it was an 18. He gave the Cowboys, they got a 14. And I believe the Redskins either got a 12 or 14 with the Cowboys. And they got to the Giants, and he actually graded them 16. And he was saying that he felt that they're going to be a little better than we anticipate they're going to be. So that was kind of encouraging to hear from a guy that studies the game.
Yeah, we have this. I'm looking up when we did our rankings, Coach Marvin, and we ranked the offensive linemen. All of us had the Giants coming in at below the Dallas Cowboys, below the Eagles. We had them number 1. And then it kind of varied. Lance and I had the Giants at number 2 on the list, and you and Sitek, it looks like, had them at number 1 on the list, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I have here, it looks like.
1? No, we had Philly 1.
No, 1 isn't last.
Oh. You know what? I don't remember.
That's what I'm looking at here. So we kind of had them in the mix as like number 3 on the list. It was kind of them and Dallas were even, and Washington was number 2. That's kind of what we were looking at here. But they've definitely closed the gap, and I think it's a combination of the Giants, Coach Marvin, getting a little bit better. But I think it's also a combination of the Dallas Cowboys dropping off.
Yeah.
Now, we could have it, and we did our Cowboys preview, went up on BBK yesterday. We could be talking about this Cowboys offensive line next year. They have so many young players that all right, they're number 2 in the division. They're going to be great for a while. It's just a matter of how their young guys develop. The Giants have gone more the veteran route, right? They don't have a lot of young guys except for Schmitz on the offensive line. So I think they're trying to bring some level of stability and raise the floor of the unit. And they've done that mostly through spending money in free agency rather than using the draft to do that.
Hey, Coach, the one thing that I've really kind of leaned a lot on in discussing this line, and I'd like you to address the point, because I believe very strongly in Carmen Brasillo, the offensive line coach, who came in last year and I thought did a marvelous job the first third of the season when he had his guys available. Once they started to break down and he was trying to piece things together with, paper clips and staples, they suffered. And I get that. But from your perspective, I mean, can you explain? You were a head coach. I know it was at a different level, but the offensive line coach is a very big factor in that room.
It's totally different on my level than their level. It's a lot more advanced. But the way I came up, being raised in the 70s and watching the game, everything was inside the trenches, offense and defensive line. So everything was based on those kids that can play the line. I always cherish those guys because how much they sacrifice, especially you're talking kids on my level. A lot of kids come in, and before high school, when I was on the on the youth level, you're trying to find out who's who, and you ask kids who can play wide receiver. All of them got their hands up. Who wants to be a quarterback? All of them got their hands up. Who wants to be the running back? All of them got their hands up. I can't find one of them that wants to be an offensive lineman. And my son was playing in my first year. He was playing, and my son wanted to be a running back, which I felt he wasn't athletic enough to win the job. I told him he can go for it, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be like 4 or 5 kids ahead of you. And I told him, but what you can do is play. I thought he fit the build of a center, and I told him, center, you want to get on the field? Raise your hand up that you can play the offensive line. You're going to get the first chance to prove you can play. And that's how he got on the field. But I try to get a lot of athletic kids on the offensive line with size that can move their feet, and that's how important it was, because on that level, everything is dealing with the running game more than the passing game.
Sure.
So that's why I was more into the built-in dealing with the trenches and the offensive line. And I always cherish those guys. And I tell the players that you should feel the same way. If you're a running back or receiver, the first one you should be celebrating with is an offensive lineman, because they gave us the time to do what we do. So it's very important. Pat Kerwin was actually talking the same thing you got, what John was just saying. He gave the Giants a good grade because of the injuries they have and what they did this year. They brought in more depth, more guys that have played more football. Mm-hmm. So he felt that if you get guys with experience, it'll help them when they're dealing with injuries. So it was a pretty good show that he gave about that. So it was interesting. He also did the edge rushers real quick. I don't want to take up too much time.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
He did the edge rushers. He gave the Cowboys a 16. The highest you can get as an individual is 7. And Michael Parsons got a 7. Flowers, I think it was, got a 7. And the rest of their team got 2. So they had 16. He downplayed the Eagles. He think they built inside out. They don't have a lot of, he felt they lost a lot of edge rushers, so they got guys that really haven't proven themselves. And I think he gave them, I believe it was a 14 he gave them. And he gave the Redskins a 12. And they got to the Giants, and he gave the Giants a 16, equal to the Cowboys. Only one that got a 7 was Brian Burns. I believe Thibodeau got a 4, I believe. And then all the rest of them added it up to 16. So he said he gave some good compliments that he felt that the Giants defense, he said, don't be surprised if he had them rated very high. I'm thinking he was talking top 5.
Well, my guess, Coach, is that he probably didn't want to give Abdul credit Abdul Carter credit for anything yet because he's a rookie, but I imagine he's going to push that number up a lot higher.
Yeah.
That's what he did say that, but he said with rookies he can only give them, I think, up to a 2.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the high, because he never played.
Sure.
Abdul Carter got a 2.
Okay.
And he felt that Abdul Carter will. John, it's like you were listening to the show. He actually did say that about Abdul Carter, that he can be the difference. And that's why he's saying he believes the defense is going to be a lot better than people anticipate.
No,
and
I appreciate it.
He gave them a good rating. So
thank you, Coach.
Hope to see you guys soon, guys.
Yeah.
Y'all take care.
Count on it.
Definitely let us know where you're at, where you're sitting, and we'll make sure we say hi when you come here for that training camp practice. Which, by the way, there are still tickets available for training camp.
Yes.
So go to Giants.com/training camp. It's a lot of fun. For the adults, they can have autographs from alumni. The kids can get autographs from the current players, high-five lines, concessions, food, souvenirs. There's a team shop. A lot of fun stuff for the kids. So come out to training camp practice, Giants.com/training camp. Tickets are free. Go get them while they last because they are going quickly. Paul, we got about 5 minutes here. Do you want to go through one or two of these other categories, or do you got something else you want to bring up?
No,
here?
I was just going to say specifically the practices that are still available. If you haven't gone to the website, July 23rd, 24th, 28th, 29th, and 31st.
And these are all weekday practices, just FYI.
Yeah, 23, 24, 28, 29, and 31st. Those are 5 practices still available.
All right, let me give you some unsolicited advice. If you're choosing between those practices, lean towards the 28th, 29th, and 31st because those are going to be padded practices.
There you go.
And those first couple ones are not going to be padded practices.
Correct. So there's less to see.
There is less to see. So make sure you go check that out on Giants.com/training camp. And I also mentioned this a couple times. Check out the Giants Huddle podcast. We're winding down our position group interviews. We just did off-ball linebackers. We have coming up next week the safeties and corners, including a one-on-one with Paulson Adebo. We'll post separately on YouTube. So check that out. Giants Huddle podcast can be found on your favorite podcast platform, Giants.com/podcast, Giants app, Giants YouTube channel. Go find it. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Paul, you can pick the position. Which one do you want to hit here that you find interesting?
Well, I think when we were talking earlier before we got to this whole situation, we didn't go over the quarterbacks, did we, in this program?
That's what I was suggested to. Let's do quarterbacks.
You know,
so
because there are a couple very, very intriguing ones in terms of where they landed.
And I think it comes to a point that you made, and folks, we're not going to go much past 1:30 today, so we're going to try to do this quick. The top 4 is not a surprise. It's the 4 guys you would think. In the order they have them in is Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar Jackson. I would not have a problem moving those guys in any order you want. You're fine with it either way.
Sure.
Jaden Daniels coming in at number 5 with a lot of effusive praise for him.
Yeah.
Similar to C.J. Stroud last year, he came in at number 7. Let's see if Daniels can have a better second year than C.J. Stroud did. Matthew Stafford at number 6, which sounds about right to me. Justin Herbert coming in at number 7 makes sense. Jared Goff at number 8, fine. Jalen Hurts at 9. And then Baker Mayfield getting into the mix at number 10. Last 2 years, he's thrown 73 touchdown passes.
You know,
He's been very productive.
You know, he went down the yellow brick road and found the Wizard of Oz because these last 2 years, he has been so productive.
Now, new offensive coordinator this year. Liam Solom left to go to the Jaguars, so we'll see how that goes. The runner-ups here were Stroud, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Tua, and Bo Nix. The guys, I think the best argument to move into the top 10 next year are Dak, Purdy, Love, and Stroud. And I could see them replacing, we talked about Baker. I could see Jalen Hurts sliding out of the top 10. I want to talk about him too. And then, it's just, where would you draw the line, Paul, in terms of your tiers? You have your first 4. Who would you put in that second tier of guys?
Yeah, see, that's where it gets really sticky for me because I'm a big Herbert guy, and I know that overall people wanted to see him win more. I understand
I would put him in that second tier, though.
But he's there for me. Stafford is there for me.
I agree with that.
And Goff is there for me. He has to be because his efficiency has been ridiculous.
No, I have no problem with Goff in that
and
group.
he certainly has been a part of a winner.
Yep.
They've won a lot of games these last couple of years with him there.
I would probably expand the group a little more from that.
See, that's where I would. To me, it's a very thin second group.
So then how thin would your third group then be?
How thin would my third group be? There's probably 4 guys in the third group.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, see, I think you're just being a little bit more specific with your groupings. Who would you put in your third group, out of curiosity?
Well, yeah, as much as, I may not be a big Hurts fan personally, he's got to be there.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be there. Of the other guys who were listed here.
Would you put Dak in that group?
I'm not a Dak guy, but I understand. If people wanted to put him there, I couldn't fight you on it. I'm not a Dak guy myself. But, geez, who else?
Love, Stroud, Baker would be the other guys.
Baker's got to be in there, doesn't he? Look at what he's done. I was never a Baker Mayfield guy, but in Tampa, these last couple of years, he has been ridiculous.
Yep. That's where I would draw the line. So you have the top 10 guys in their list, Paul, and then I would have, I'm not doing orders here. I'm just doing guys I would have in those groups, right? Stroud, Love, Purdy, Dak, and then I think there's the drop-off. I would put Murray in the group below that. I would put Tua in the group below that, Knicks, those guys. So that means I have
I would definitely agree with that.
Kind of cut off at, let me see, that's 11, 12, 13, 14. So I would feel good about having anybody in that top 14 group.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think after that, you're getting into I'm not sure if I have the right quarterback to try to win a Super Bowl with. And that's kind of where I would stand, I think.
I'm going to take one other quick look here, see if there's anybody else that I might want to just...
All right, I'll throw a name at you.
Bump up there. Go ahead.
Trevor Lawrence.
You know what? I don't... He's fringe for me in that third group.
His...
Fringe.
It's funny. You would think Lawrence... We would talk about Lawrence the way we would talk about Baker, and we would talk about Baker the way we talk about Lawrence.
Yes.
But Baker has just frankly been better, to be totally honest with you.
He's changed the narrative.
He's been great.
That's what he's done.
To his credit. Good for him. How close would you have Geno Smith or Sam Darnold into that next tier?
Darnold's got to do more than 1 year to sell me.
I agree. I'm with you on that. How about Geno?
I would reluctantly probably have to put Geno at the bottom of that tier, but I think he sneaks in.
I think I would too.
The one guy who, unfortunately, as I just quickly called up the list of quarterbacks in the league, who I'm going to have to say we can't ignore, is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think Aaron Rodgers probably is still at the bottom of the third tier for me.
He might be. He might be.
I don't think he's fallen off a cliff.
I'm not going to fight you on that. I probably wouldn't, just because I've seen enough deterioration. But if you want to put him there, I'm not going to argue with you.
That's probably the only other guy who might deserve consideration for the bottom of 3 for me.
Paul, good stuff, my friend.
Yeah.
That's Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. We're back next week. What do we decide, Paul? I don't want to mess with the people. Did we say 2 o'clock for BBK during camp?
Well, maybe I better look at your email.
Yes, and I'm going to look up the schedule, because practice starts next week, guys, so we're going to try to make sure we don't interrupt the show with media avails and stuff like that every day. So we're going to put the show a little bit later, after practice, after media, so we could talk about all that stuff. Yes, 2 p.m.
That's what you
starting
got.
On Monday.
Yep, 2 o'clock.
It's going to be 2 p.m. for Big Blue Kickoff Live every day, probably for the next 3 weeks. Then the practice schedule changes again, and it's all TBD. So we're going to have to wait and see what it looks like after that. But for the next 3 weeks, starting on Monday, it'll be 2 o'clock for Big Blue Kickoff Live. For Paul Dottino, I am John Schmeelk. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow or Monday from the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better.